Hello, my name is Shane White, and this is going to be a demonstration of the Alpha Base controller software for the Roland Alpha Juno 2 and 1 and the MKS-50 synthesizers by Roland. They were synthesizers made in the 1980s. They're analog synthesizers, and they're hardware. So what this software is it's a MIDI controller, and it doesn't make any sound on its own. It basically controls the sound generating parameters of the Roland synthesizers. And that allows you better control over the sound creation parameters, because the synthesizers in the hardware, you have to go through some menus, and there's only one dial, a little teeny weeny LCD screen on the synthesizers themselves. So the software makes it a lot easier to use. The Alpha Base software is free. It's donationware. You can download it off the internet. And it works, it's just standalone software, runs in Windows, and can work with any MIDI hardware to interface to the synthesizers. So I'm going to give you a brief overview on how this works. You have sound generating area, the DCO section. You can control the octave. There's 3 different oscillators. They're not like standalone oscillators. They're just different waveforms you can put in. There's only really one oscillator with only one pitch, but there's different waveforms you can choose from. So it's kind of like having 3 separate oscillators, but not really. There's pulse width modulation that has a dedicated LFO for that. There's noise control. There's a pitch LFO. You can respond to aftertouch, pitch envelope, amplitude section, VCA. There's an LFO that can control the filter or the pitch or the volume. And there's a filter section, and it's a low-pass 4-pole filter. The filter is not self-oscillating, so the filter sounds a little funky when you bring the resonance all the way up compared to most other analog synthesizers. There's one envelope that can control the filter and the amplitude, so it's one envelope that controls everything. And it's a little limiting, but it actually makes things easier to use. And the effects section is a chorus section, which is right here. Banks, you can load in different sound banks with all kinds of different presets. You can also load and save just individual presets if you want. They're saved as system exclusive files, so they can be loaded in other software as well. It's not proprietary to the software. Settings can give you different settings as far as what you want your MIDI inputs and outputs to be. And here's the really cool part. The Alpha Juno synthesizers use system exclusive just to control all the parameters that didn't use regular control changes. This software can convert control changes from like another MIDI keyboard you may have or your sequencer software, and it can convert them into the system exclusive parameters that the Alpha Juno synthesizers will respond to. And that's really cool, because then you can use an external device to control these different parameters. You can custom design what parameters you want it to be. So I'm going to begin with some sound. So I just have a very basic preset. I just have a sawtooth running, and I'll give you a little demonstration of what that sounds like. And here's a really nice feature about the Alpha Juno synthesizers. There's a whole bunch of different sawtooth-like waveforms you can get. Most analog synthesizers just have that, just the regular sawtooth, but this has a whole bunch of other things. So I'll run through those really fast. This one is special. You can pulse width modulate the sawtooth, and I'll show you what that sounds like. Okay, and that's very unique. I think only the Alpha Juno synthesizer can do that, which is really nice. Okay, then there's a comb waveform. That sounds a bit like PPG wave type of sound. And here's another type of comb wave. Kind of thin and cheesy sounding, but it's interesting. And then you can turn the waveform off, and then I can turn on pulse. There's 3 different settings: square, like 50% pulse, and then pulse width modulation. And of course, this one can be controlled by the pulse width modulation parameter. And this same slider here can control the pulse and the saw. So here's what that sounds like. Okay, and then there's the sub-octave generator. There's, unlike the Juno predecessors like the Juno 60, the Juno 106, this isn't a volume slider. This is just has 4 different positions, which is kind of stupid, but that's what you get. It also has extra waveforms as well, which is pretty nice. The predecessor, the Juno 106, only had regular square, so this has a bunch of different waveforms. So what do these all sound like together? Well, let's find out. All right, and sounds a little static right now, so I'm going to bring in some pulse width modulation. So it has its own dedicated LFO, so let's give that a try. All right, now we're getting fat here. So let's check out the filter. You may notice it sounds a little steppy, gritty as I'm moving this up and down. The Alpha Juno doesn't have interpolation because the MIDI values are only 127 steps for the filter. And the Alpha Juno is an old synthesizer. The digital control it has on it is pretty limited. You know, it's really, old style technology, so it doesn't interpolate the sound. It doesn't sound like a smooth filter. So the envelope control allows you to control the filter over time. Let's give some little nice percussive sound here. So there's another feature that this Alpha Juno synthesizer has is a multi-stage envelope, and it's more than just ADSR. It actually has 3 different time periods. It has 2 decay sections, which is pretty nice. The first decay section is like a linear slope. The second decay section is an exponential slope. And the software here shows you the difference between the 2 sections. And of course, there's a tack as well. So I'm not really going to use the linear slope as well. It doesn't sound as good for most of the time. So I'm just going to leave that not used. Let's do that. Just bring the level all the way up, and then it doesn't matter what the time is. So let's see what this sounds like now. And the Alpha Juno can also respond to velocity. So if I put it on D mode, That's dynamic. I can do that with the amplitude as well. So I can put it on a dynamic, volume, and filter. Then I can put a little LFO in here on the filter. The Alpha Juno does not go by ADSR. It goes by level and time. So like say time 4 is the release, time 1 is the attack, level 3 is sustain. So it takes a little while to get used to that. But thankfully, these graphic controls show it, how it works pretty clearly. So it's a lot easier to program than the hardware synthesizer itself, which just shows you the labels. It doesn't really tell you how it works too well. So in this, like what I'm doing now is the attack stage and the decay stage are there's 2 attack stages I'm setting up here. If I set this to be like short and then this part to be long, check this out. And I think this might be the only analog synthesizer that can do that. Most other analog synthesizers just have a standard Moog style ADSR. So this is a little more powerful. The envelope can also control the pitch, which since there's only one envelope, it kind of doesn't work too well most of the time. Because it doesn't end up being the correct pitch. So that only really works if your sustain is all the way down, because then it'll end up in the pitch that you really want it to be. And here's the most important part, the chorus. This makes it sound nice and fat because since there's only one oscillator, it's only one pitch. You can't detune it and get that nice fat analog sound, but the chorus allows that to happen. And unlike previous Juno synthesizers, which only had 2 chorus rate positions, this one's actually continuously variable. And it's actually a lot more powerful. So I'll show you what that sounds like here. Now it sounds a lot more expressive now with the chorusing on. Here's with it off. And let's see. So the pitch LFO can also be controlled by aftertouch. So which is a nice feature here too. I'll turn the filter off, LFO off, so it's a little more obvious. So I'm pressing down harder on the key on my controller keyboard, and that's controlling the aftertouch. So the pitch can also be controlled by the LFO, just without the aftertouch. And the LFO can also go pretty fast, which can get some nice effects. Starts making it sound like an engine. Yeah, so this, it's pretty simple. The Juno was a simple synthesizer. It was kind of their budget analog synthesizer, but there's some nice features here. Definitely the ability to save presets is great. So this software makes the Alpha Junos really a lot more usable than just using the synthesizers, the hardware alone, because it's got all these different things you can do with it and save patches in all your banks and stuff. So I really recommend this software. If you can find a used Alpha Juno on the eBay, because they're not made anymore, you can probably find some on eBay if you look hard enough. And then you can use this software to control it, and it makes it really nice thing to use and a great complement to any studio setup if you're trying to do electronic music. So thanks for watching this video. I'll do some other ones soon. I'll probably demonstrate the Dave Smith Instruments Tetra, which is a whole different ballgame there. That's like one of the most powerful synthesizers ever made. So again, thanks for watching this video, and take care. Bye-bye.